Every night, the top human powerhouses would piously kneel towards the mountain, then offer up their souls as traps, ultimately solidifying into four-seasoned statues fused with feathers and colors. We must be grateful to the mountain, for I am no longer human, but a Kunlun demon mountain eroded by the remaining protectors. But at the same time, I am also the only demon who can save them in these end times, simply because after the global outbreak of paranormal entities, the nuclear weapons that humanity prides itself on have become scrap metal. S-class evil spirits are even devouring civilization as if it were a buffet, and in order to survive, they have no choice but to Changru enter this forbidden area that even gods revere. However, what they didn't expect was that just a single glance would lead to the tragic scene of the trap before their eyes. This is the price mortals pay for gazing upon gods. At this moment, I lowered my gaze, and an invisible pressure instantly tore the boy named Ling Yun to pieces on the spot, and in his hand, he was clutching a specially made demon-slaying blade, its tip even pointed at his own heart. But he was still resisting the divine decree in his mind that was making him trap his own soul, just at this moment. A hunger that seemed to devour heaven and earth instantly overwhelmed my reason. Though I need food, it is not the flesh and blood of these insignificant humans before me. The energy they can provide is not even enough to fill a crack in my teeth. Then a bold idea appeared in my mind. If I were to bite this human, at most it would just be another mouthful of worthless, rotten flesh. It would be better to let him become my tongue, searching for a continuous stream of food for me. After all, I am now just an immobile mountain. In order to evolve into a complete form before the 300-day countdown ends, I need someone to bring those delicious paranormal entities to my mouth. So, as I withdrew the mental pressure that was enough to crush its soul, the voice once again flooded Ling Yun's mind. As the pressure suddenly decreased, Ling Yun's insane thoughts of wanting to self-destruct receded like the tide. He suddenly sprang up from the mud, gasping for breath. He didn't understand why the other party would let him go. But the next second, he was stunned. The hungry ghost, wasn't that an easy kill? A safe paranormal entity that has been constantly monitored? Besides eating a lot, it doesn't have any offensive capabilities at all. How could it possibly be out of control? If we don't stop it in time, it will devour the entire city. Millions of people will not survive, and your only way out is to send it here. Feed it to me. Ling Yun was stunned in place, his mind blank. Because this was too crazy. A forbidden evil god who had just slaughtered his entire elite team, not only spared him but even issued a warning to humanity, and the target was still our people. Before Ling Yun could react, a gust of wind rose from the ground, directly pushing Ling Yun towards the helicopter parked in the distant sky. Watching the helicopter disappear into the night, I slowly closed my eyes. At the same time, inside the airborne command of the Paranormal Bureau in Linhai City, Director Li Zhanggua stared intently at the blurry images on the screen, his hands trembling. That was equipped with the nation's top anti-paranormal unmanned aerial vehicle, yet it didn't even see the monster before being wiped out at the foot of the mountain. What level of existence is that? S-class? Even an S-class paranormal entity couldn't possibly, with just its aura, cause this group of battle-hardened elites to voluntarily die in an instant. Just then, the hatch opened, and a dazed Ling Yun staggered in. He grabbed Li Zhanggua's arm tightly, his nails digging deep into the flesh. His eyes filled with an unprecedented fear and urgency. Director Li, quickly seal off the West District. 3 days, only 3 days left. The hungry ghost trapped under the restaurant is going to eat us all. If we don't send it to Kunlun Mountain to feed that great being, Linhai City will turn into hell. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the command center was stunned. Because sending one paranormal entity to feed another, to them humans, it was simply a fantasy. Deputy Director Lu Longbo frowned and snorted coldly. Ling Yun, have you been mentally contaminated? Let's not talk about the issue of feeding paranormal entities. The hungry ghost's energy fluctuations have always been stable. How could a mere sea-level paranormal entity destroy a city? I think you've been scared out of your wits by that Kunlun Mountain monster, haven't you? Indeed, in the Paranormal Bureau's monitoring data, the hungry ghost is like a pig swallowing garbage. Terrifyingly docile. Ling Yun suddenly turned his head, his bloodshot bronze eyes, staring intently at Lu Longbo. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Deputy Director Lu, do you dare to bet? Do you dare to bet the lives of millions of people in the city on whether that great being is joking? Li Zhanggua, hearing this, looked at the usually calm, but now seemingly mad teenager before him. A sudden ominous premonition arose in his heart. If it's true, then this will be the first time in human history to receive a death countdown from a god. However, Deputy Director Lu Longbo, after hearing this, suddenly slammed his hands on the table and stood up, pointing at the ghostly figure on the screen, still devouring garbage in the basement. His face was full of disdain. That's ridiculous. Based on this CG trash. You say it can destroy Linhai City? I think you've been brainwashed by that Kunlun mountain monster. You're right, that hungry ghost in the surveillance footage is currently docilely huddled in the corner. It doesn't even dare attack a stray cat. I thought that with these facts right in front of him, Ling Yun would feel guilty. But Ling Yun just coldly looked up. There wasn't a trace of wavering in those heterochromatic eyes. Instead, they radiated a sense of determination that surprised everyone. Deputy Director Lu, you may not believe it, but if the prophecy comes true, and even just one person dies, can you take responsibility? Just as Lu Longbo, his face flushed, was about to retort, Director Li Zhonggua, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. Listen to my orders. Citywide Level 1 alert. Mobilize all destroyer squads to surround the Northeast restaurant. Then we wait until the countdown ends. As time ticked by, when only 10 minutes remained on the countdown, those ability users and powerful individuals who had been lying in wait around the restaurant could no longer restrain themselves. One of the ability users, Hua Bing, walked into the restricted area cursing. The Easy Bureau's old geezers are getting more and more senile. They actually believe in some doomsday prophecy. I'll chop him in half and go home to sleep. At that moment, the captain's urgent roar came through the earpiece. Hua Bing, don't be impulsive. The director has ordered us to wait until the countdown ends. Wait for what? Hua Bing sneered, and the long blade in his hand suddenly erupted with a dazzling red light. That was the rule power of the ghost blade to sever. He leaped high and brought the blade down fiercely on the ghoul's head. He thought that this strike would split the fragile ghoul in two, but the next scene left everyone dumbfounded. They heard a clang of metal, and the ghoul, which had been gnawing on garbage, suddenly raised a small, pitch-black hand and used only 2 fingers to pinch. The ability-enhanced treasure blade, which was said to be indestructible. Hua Bing froze instantly, sweat pouring down his forehead. He desperately tried to pull back the long blade, but found that it seemed to be welded to the other's fingers. This? How is this possible? Just then, the ghoul, who had been keeping its head down, suddenly looked up. Those eyes, without any whites, stared intently at Hua Bing, and the corners of its mouth slowly split open at that moment, revealing 2 rows of fine, shark-like teeth. Almost at the same time, all the large screens in the Easy Bureau's command center instantly turned red. The alarm siren struggled to cut through the air. Director, energy level is exploding. Level A, rising constantly. The technician's terrified scream made everyone's hearts clench. Lu Longbo, who had originally thought this was just alarmist talk, was now as pale as a sheet and collapsed onto the ground. He actually predicted it. How is that possible? Little did they know, something even more terrifying was yet to come. As the countdown hit 0, the ghoul hawk suddenly let out a sharp cry towards the sky. The sound was unlike a baby. It was more like countless wronged souls screaming at the same time. And this cry followed the air, followed the radio waves. Those disturbed by the ghoul, regardless of gender, all clutched their stomachs at the same time, and wailed in pain on the ground. My stomach, it hurt so much. Their abdomens ballooned madly at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if they were being inflated. In just a few seconds, Zhengningnyo Chudaren Lan, a distorted human face, actually appeared on the taut belly. That was the next generation of ghoul hawk about to burst out. Hua Bing, who was closest, was already shaking with fear. His stomach was bloated to the greatest extent, as if it would explode at any moment. Desperate, he let go of the hilt of his knife, wanting to run away. It was a pity that the ghoul had no intention of letting go of this dessert that had come to his door. At this moment, the command room was deathly silent. Only the teeth-grinding chewing sound echoed in everyone's ears through the amplifier. As the ghoul turned its head to look at the monitoring probe, its dark eyes seemed to be looking at everyone in the command room through the screen, revealing a cruel and greedy smile. Little did they know that it was merely transmitting through electromagnetic waves, which caused several female technicians in the command room to clutch their stomachs and fall to the ground, screaming in terror. One could even see small cyan hands scratching wildly inside their bellies. Deputy Director Lu Longbo's legs went weak after seeing this, and he was clearly scared out of his wits. He just grabbed the corner of the table tightly, his eyes unfocused. It's over. It's all over. That's an A level. That's an A level that can destroy a city. A crisp slap echoed, silencing the whole room. Director Li Zhonggua, with red eyes, slapped Lu Longbo in the face with great force. even knocking out 2 teeth. Useless. Bing bing. Be cold-blooded. Medical team, take them down. Use sedatives and windsight charms to temporarily suppress the ghost fetus. If you can't suppress it, execute the termination procedure. We must not let the ghost infants mature and no longer be controllable. Just then, a voice came from the screen. Destroyer Squad Leader Chui Cheng's desperate roar. Director, this monster is still evolving. He ate Hua Bing. He also grew wings. That's a piece of the singing bird ghoul. Singing bird ghoul? That's a terrifying ghoul that once annihilated an entire army. Now this hungry ghost. By devouring, it perfectly inherited this aerial killing ability. Li Zhangguo took a deep breath. A hint of determination flashed in his eyes. We can't fight it head-on anymore. Pass my order. Activate the final gambit. Let the Suicide Squad carry the highly concentrated ghost offspring in and lure it to the center of the ghost imprisonment array. Even if we have to fill it with lives, we must trap it inside. At this moment, above the ruins of the Northeast restaurant, a fierce battle is underway. In order to capture this evolved hungry ghost, 3 Suicide Squad members wearing heavy protective suits, holding ghost flesh emitting the fragrance of infants, charged into the hungry ghost's attack range without hesitation. As expected, greed is this monster's greatest weakness. Faced with the offered delicacies, the hungry ghost temporarily abandoned the slaughter. The black wings on its back fluttered, as it instantly pounced towards the 3 ghost offspring. Just as it was about to feast, hundreds of ghost hunters already lying in ambush around it launched their attack simultaneously. Activate the array. With a roar, 108 precious ghost suppressing stones lit up with golden light at the same time. A golden screen, like an inverted bowl, appeared. Immediately after, the heavily armed helicopters that had been waiting took off with a roar, quickly hooking onto that huge ghost imprisonment array cage, struggling to ascend in the rain of ash. However, things didn't go smoothly. The pilot's voice was filled with sobs. Something's wrong. Number 3 is about to give out. It's crashing inside. The steel cables are breaking. In an instant, the hungry ghost trapped in the cage turned out to be even more violent than anyone had imagined. Realizing it was trapped, it began to frantically crash against the light screen. Bang, bang, bang. Each impact felt like a heavy hammer striking everyone's hearts. Soon, with a crisp sound, the cage, which was said to be able to suppress A-level ghosts, actually cracked open a gap. Ling Yun, sitting in number 2, saw this scene and his pupils shrank suddenly. Not good. It's coming out. They thought that sacrificing the Suicide Squad and using all the ghost-suppressing stones would make it foolproof. Who knew that, after devouring the Suicide Squad, this hungry ghost exploded with power again. With a roar, the hungry ghost let out a shriek. An invisible sonic wave instantly shattered the windshield of number 3. The pilot didn't even have time to scream before being turned into a cloud of blood. Number 3, out of control, spiraled down, causing the entire cage to shake violently. Seeing this, Li Zhangguo's heart sank to the bottom. It's over. It's over. Once it breaks free, this hungry ghost will be completely unleashed. Not only will this area be plunged into misery, but the Kunlun Mountain Lord's ghost extermination plan will also be completely ruined. However, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in Ling Yun's eyes. He took out a dark black bead from his chest. It was the soul bead treasured by the Paranormal Bureau. It is said that it seals tens of thousands of desperate souls inside, a delicacy that ghosts cannot resist. Since we can't hold it back, then let's not hold it. Cut everything. Throw this thing down. I'm going to personally lure it over. Li Zhangguo on the other end of the communicator was stunned. What? Ling Yun, are you crazy? Without the ghost imprisonment array, that ghost will tear you apart in an instant. Ling Yun, get back here. No time to explain. Ghost, ugly monster. Want to eat? Come and chase your grandpa. As expected, the hungry ghost, which was originally destroying the cage, suddenly stopped after smelling the aura of the soul bead. It greedily sniffed the desperate scent in the air, even forgetting its fear of the ghost-suppressing stones, and let out an excited hiss, evolving into a black lightning bolt that pounced towards the helicopter where Ling Yun was. Seeing this, Ling Yun jumped without hesitation. He didn't jump to the helicopter, but jumped directly into the abyss below. And below was the territory of Kunlun Mountain. Lord of heaven and earth, your takeout has arrived. At the moment Ling Yun fell, time seemed to stretch infinitely. He looked at the gray sky above, looked at the hungry ghost chasing closely, its bloody mouth wide open, and a sense of relief welled up in his heart. Am I going to die? Just at this critical moment, an indescribable terrifying aura erupted without warning from the dark mountain range below. It was the appetite of a god. The entire Kunlun mountain seemed to come alive. Under Ling Yun's terrified gaze, the hard rocks on the surface of the mountain suddenly wriggled like liquid. Immediately afterwards, thousands upon thousands of scarlet eyeballs opened on the mountainside, staring intently at the tiny hungry ghost in the air. The scene stunned everyone. The hungry ghost, which was originally grinning, preparing to enjoy Ling Yun as a snack, suddenly froze in midair. In its eyes, which had no pupils, for the first time, a fear even stronger than that of humans was revealed. It sensed that it was a kind of absolute crushing in terms of taste, the overlooking of the bottom-dwelling ants by the king at the top of the food chain. The hungry ghost let out a piercing scream. The wings on its back flapped frantically, desperately trying to escape this restricted area quickly. But no matter how it struggled, its body seemed to be imprisoned by some invisible force. We could only watch as the mountain opened its mouth, a bottomless abyss capable of swallowing the heavens and the earth, with countless dark tentacles. Like chains from the depths of hell, they instantly pierced the void, tightly binding the hungry ghost. The team in the Pure One Bureau's command center, witnessing this through the screen, were all so frightened they collapsed into their chairs. What is that thing? The once invincible A-level ghoul, in the face of these countless tentacles, is as fragile as a fly caught in a spiderweb. As the tentacles tightened, the trapped hungry ghost was gradually dragged towards that gaping maw. The terrifying ghoul that had plunged the entire city into despair vanished into that abyss. The world fell silent. Ling Yun didn't fall to his death. A gentle, almost eerie, tentacle steadily caught him 10 meters above the ground and gently placed him on the moist soil. He looked at the majestic demon mountain before him. The reverence in his heart reached its peak. Thank you, great heavenly earth, for saving my life. Deep within the mountain, my consciousness was undergoing an unprecedented evolution. Ding! Devouring successful. Devoured A-level target. Mutated hungry ghost. Gained 3,000 energy points. Gained a fragment of the law. Sonic attack. Rapid regeneration. As these sounds echoed, an indescribable sense of comfort spread throughout my body. The maddening hunger was finally relieved. Even the countdown to death became less jarring. Compared to the barren souls of humans, this ghoul, filled with the power of the law, was simply a supreme delicacy. Immediately, I sent a voice into Ling Yun's mind again, with a hint of lingering desire. Is there more? This dessert was delicious. Ling Yun shuddered upon hearing this. That was an A-level monster that almost destroyed the city. In this great one's mouth, it's just a dessert. There definitely is more. As long as great heavenly earth likes it, we can get them easily. No. All of China is willing to find more of these snacks for you. It must be said that this is actually a win-win transaction. Humans cannot eliminate the paranormal and I need to feed. We each get what we need. Very well. I slowly retracted the countless tentacles, transforming back into the silent Kunlun mountain. Tell those ants to bring the list here. I have been hungry for too long. This little bit is not enough to fill the gap in my teeth. At the same time, at the Pure One Bureau headquarters far away in Beijing, a top-level meeting regarding the Heavenly Earth feeding plan was being urgently convened. This is madness. Utter madness. An old man in a Zhongshan suit, Pure One Bureau Elder Cui Qingji, trembled with anger. You're treating an unknown S-level evil god as a savior, and you want to feed him with the resources of the entire country, Li Zhanggua? I think you've gone senile. What if he eats his fill and turns around and eats us too? This question struck like a heavy hammer, echoing in everyone's hearts. Indeed, in human history, there had never been such a precedent. To place hope in an indescribable monster was tantamount to seeking skin from a tiger. Many conservative generals echoed, Elder Cui is right. We still have the national leader, Luo Lao, and 3 original artifacts. We can fight to the death if necessary, but we cannot entrust the fate of the nation to a ghoul. Faced with the accusations, Li Zhanggua silently took out a classified file from his briefcase. Take a look. This is the data on the revival of ghouls across the country in the past 6 months. Everyone opened the file with puzzlement, and then something unexpected happened. The more they looked, the paler everyone's faces became. The data showed S-level ghoul revival. Signs in 7 locations. The probability of A-level ghoul losing control has increased by 300%. It is estimated that within the next year, China will face a cataclysmic disaster. Each shocking number was like a sharp knife, piercing the psychological defenses of everyone present. Li Zhanggua smiled sadly. Gentlemen, we don't have time. It's not that I want to be the madman, but other than that Kunlun Mountain Great One, who else can we rely on? The room fell silent, just as everyone was sinking into despair and conflict. The old man who had been sitting in the main seat with his eyes closed, revered as China's guardian, the national leader Luo Zhang, who had guarded the nation's destiny for a century, slowly opened his eyes. In those aged eyes, there was no confusion, only clarity that pierced through the affairs of the world. Since we cannot kill it, then we will make friends with it. Send my orders. The Heavenly Earth feeding plan will be launched immediately, classified as SSS level top secret. Anyone who dares to obstruct it will be charged with treason. This decisive decree completely changed the course of history. An era belonging to the joint evolution of humans and gods had begun. At the same time, across the ocean in the United States of America, at FBI headquarters, an equally intense discussion was taking place. McDost replied seriously, saying that ancient Oriental country has been acting strange lately. Our spies have uncovered some information. They have amassed a large number of troops near the Kunlun mountains. There are even unknown energy fluctuations. And the head of state sitting in the first seat frowned slightly. Isn't the Kunlun mountain a barren land? General McDost sneered. No, there may be a big secret there. According to intelligence, the hungry ghost that should have been out of control was led there, and then completely disappeared. What does this mean? This shows that China has mastered a kind of technology to instantly obliterate A-level ghouls, or there is something even more terrifying hidden there. So we must never let them succeed. The head of state slammed the table, blue light flashing in his eyes. You're right, if it's a treasure, then snatch it. If it's technology, then steal it. The Federation of Freedom will never allow anyone to be more powerful than us. Pass the order down, let the Monitor Second Squad sneak into China. I want to know what is hidden in these Kunlun mountains. Not long after, at the foot of the Kunlun mountains, several figures entered. Outside, 3 ghostly figures silently passed through layers of blockades. The guarding spy, Zod, curled his lips in disdain. This is China's highest restricted area. After saying that, he also touched a ring he was wearing on his finger that emitted a ghostly light. That was the technological object of the A-level invisible ghost, which could make him perfectly invisible in any environment. And Rena, the blonde beauty behind him, looked at the detector in her hand, her face a little pale. Captain, the energy fluctuations here are too strong. Should we retreat first? Zod sneered upon hearing this. You're a coward. Retreat from what? We are the top ace of the Federation of Freedom. How could a mere broken mountain eat us? However, before he could finish speaking, a piercing cold wind suddenly blew. The team member who had been following at the very back, Old La, let out a terrified scream. My legs. Zod turned his head upon hearing this, and saw a scene that made his scalp tingle instantly. Old La, who had been perfectly fine just now, was now kneeling on the ground, howling frantically, and his legs were melting into the soil like melting wax. Even more terrifying was that there was no pain on his face, but a very strange smile. That is God, that is the real God, that is the real God. The scene scared Zod out of his wits. He just wanted to stop him, but then, the moment his hand touched Old La, an indescribable terrifying will instantly rushed into his brain along his fingertips. Only at this moment did he finally understand what it meant to be unseeable. That was not a mountain. That was an extremely magnificent, ancient god in slumber. Zod let out a shrill scream. Not even caring about his teammates, he turned around and wanted to activate the space bracelet to escape this hell. Unfortunately, it was too late. In the realm of God, the escape of mortals is just a joke. Along with a miserable scream, this A-level ace spy, who the Federation of Freedom was so proud of, was now kneeling on the ground, his whole body convulsing. That usually cold and ruthless face was now full of extreme fear. He originally thought that, with the space bracelet in his hand, he could retreat unscathed even if the mission failed. But who knew that when the vast and unfathomable will descended, the bracelet in his hand actually emitted a mournful wail under the unbearable weight, and the A-level space ghost inside the bracelet was also trembling. He was in fear. He was surrendering to that mighty mountain. Zod watched this scene in despair. The faith in his heart completely collapsed. No, how could this be possible? What exactly is it that even ghosts are afraid of? Just then, a dark tentacle slowly protruded from the void. It ignored Zod's screams, but crushed him like an ant with a gentle roll. There was no blood splatter, only the light fragrance of a dissipating soul. Zod, along with the 2 team members behind him, were instantly absorbed cleanly by that mountain. The world returned to peace again. Only that space bracelet, still flashing faintly, and that invisible ring, lay lonely in the soil. Ling Yun, who had been hiding in the dark observing, was already covered in cold sweat. Although he knew that the celestial Earthlord was strong, witnessing this kind of dimensionality reduction like instant kill with his own eyes still shocked him deeply. You must know, those were 3 fully armed A-level powerhouses, but in front of this lord, they were not even as good as ants. That grand voice sounded in his mind again. Come here. Ling Yun trembled all over and ran over quickly. He knelt down respectfully. Celestial Earth Lord. Then, my voice carried a hint of laziness. These spoils of war from the underground are yours. Ling Yun suddenly raised his head. His pupils dilated in shock. Mine? These are incredibly precious AZ containment items. Especially that space bracelet. It's a strategic-level treasure that could start a war. Ling Yun trembled with excitement. The Federation carefully presented the two treasures. But the moment his fingers touched the bracelet, an unprecedented sense of docility came. The space ghoul inside not only didn't resist but seemed to have met a relative, proactively opening the door to a contract with him. Is this divine power? Even the most arrogant ghouls are becoming obedient lambs under the aura of this great being. Soon after, Ling Yun took the spoils of war and the memories flooding his mind. He rushed back to Linghai City overnight. After Li Zhangguo finished reading the memory fragments of Zuoda and the others, he was trembling with rage. Good, Free Federation, FCA escapes responsibility. So, the hungry ghost that nearly destroyed Linghai City was actually raised in secret by this group of bastards. This debt must be settled. Ling Yun, immediately contact headquarters and hand over these 3 treasures. No. Wait. Li Zhangguo suddenly thought of something, staring intently at the space bracelet in Ling Yun's hand. This was bestowed upon you by the great being of heaven and earth. Ling Yun nodded. A glint of light flashed in Li Zhangguo's eyes. Then you keep it. Since it's a divine gift, it's your exclusive equipment. With it, you can deliver takeout to the great being of heaven and earth in the future. Indeed, with this space bracelet transporting those enormous ghouls will no longer need to worry about crashing halfway. This isn't just a reward. It's also an armament for the believer from the god. At the same time, far across the ocean in the Free Federation, FCA headquarters, General McDost crushed the wine glass in his hand. His face was so gloomy that it could drip water. What? Zuoda is dead. Total annihilation? Not even a signal sent back. The person responsible for observation reported tremulously. Yes, General. Not only that, all of our hidden lines in China have lost contact overnight, as if they've been erased from this world. The entire senior management was silent. That unknown fear. For the first time, it enveloped the heads of these arrogant white people. Chuan suddenly stood up. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes. We can't let it go like this. No matter what that thing is, it must pay the price for killing our people. Immediately activate the Tianyan satellite. Turn that damn Kunlun mountain upside down for me. I want to see. What the hell is playing God? At this moment in the vast expanse of space, a full-orbit military satellite, costing billions of dollars, slowly adjusted its lens. Aimed at that dark mountain range in China. As the lens zoomed in, that Kunlun mountain shrouded in gray rain gradually became clear. Little did they know, something unexpected was about to happen. The image on the screen suddenly distorted, as if some high-dimensional force interfered with the signal. And in the deepest part of Kunlun Mountain, the sleeping entity suddenly opened those eyes covering the entire mountain. Immediately following, a jet-black tentacle shot up from the bottom of the mountain. It ignored the distance of space, ignored the organization of the atmosphere, like a spear piercing the sky, instantly crossing tens of thousands of kilometers. On the FCA's command screen, the originally clear image suddenly turned into a flurry of snowflakes. Before anyone could react, that tentacle had already crushed it like a balloon, slammed heavily on that priceless satellite. The burst of fire in space at that moment, but illuminated half of the Earth's night sky. The technician's voice was trembling badly. Report, Tianyan satellite lost signal. Confirmed destroyed. Chuan slumped back into his chair, his face full of disbelief. Across tens of thousands of kilometers, it smashed a satellite in space in one hit. Can this still be considered a ghoul? The once arrogant head of state, Chuan, was now smashing everything in the office like an enraged lion. A tentacle. A tentacle. Across tens of thousands of kilometers, it smashed my Tianyan, which has the strongest defense system, the Minister of Defense Engines said tremulously. According to the last transmitted image analysis, that kind of attack method doesn't seem like a physical strike. It's more like a high-dimensional rule erasure. In other words, the thing inside that Kunlun mountain may have exceeded the scope of an S-level ghoul. As soon as these words came out, the entire room suffocated. Because in human cognition, although ghouls are terrible, there is ultimately a way to find them. But the existence of this kind of casual violence completely exceeded their understanding. Ling Yun suddenly raised his head. A hint of madness flashed in his eyes. So what if it's a god? If we can't take it by force, then we'll take it by wit. I don't believe it's invincible. Since it's protecting the ghoul, then we'll find a way to snatch it. Whether it's stealing or robbing, we must figure out its weaknesses. At the same time, in the Kunlun mountains, my hunger, which had just subsided, is surging again. My energy consumption has been too high recently. Please replenish my energy as soon as possible. Current hunger level is 78%. Damn it. Reporting a satellite actually consumed so much energy. At the foot of the mountain, the white-haired youth, Ling Yun, who had been waiting, seemed to feel the trembling of the earth and quickly knelt down and kowtowed. Heavenly Lord, please calm your anger. Did those ghouls anger you again? Hungry. I didn't waste any words. I directly poured these two words into his mind. Ling Yun shivered. Hungry. I just finished an A-level ghoul not long ago. And I'm hungry again. He didn't dare to ask more and quickly opened the already prepared notebook computer. Lord, please take a look. This is the latest collection. As Ling Yun's fingers slid, shocking ghoul cases were presented through conscious connection. Directly presented in my mind. Gujahua, this is simply an all-you-can-eat buffet. Note, Blood Butcher, a monster wandering in the slaughterhouse, holding 2 pig-slaughtering knives. Attacks anyone he sees. Note, human-faced sewer rats that have become Jing, with human faces and reproduce very quickly. Note, Facehugger, likes to latch onto people's faces and suck their brains. Although they can all stave off hunger, for me now, these small fries are just snacks. What I need is a real feast. Just as I was about to casually pick a few to make do, my eyes suddenly stopped at a red file, A-level sleepwalker, also known as the Nightmare Queen. Ability, Dream Invasion, Soul Reaping, ignores physical defense. As soon as I saw this, my tears almost flowed out of my mouth. This is an extremely rare mental rule, and it's also A-level. My hand quickly reached out and directly clicked on the red name on the screen. It's her. Ling Yun looked at the name on the screen that made all exorcists tremble with fear. His face instantly turned pale. Heavenly Lord. Are you sure you want to eat her? That's the sleepwalker. She has no physical form. She only exists in dreams. We can't catch her at all. Even getting close will pull us into a nightmare. We'll never be able to wake up. Indeed, for humans, this kind of mental ghoul is simply an unsolvable nightmare. But in my eyes, it's just a slightly tricky jumping candy. I let out a clear and disdainful sneer. Can't catch her? If you can't catch her, then find a way to make her come to you. There's nothing I want to eat that I can't get. Ling Yun was stunned. Make the sleepwalker come to you? How is that possible? That ghoul is very intelligent and extremely cautious. She never leaves her territory. It's simple. Doesn't she like to invade dreams? Then you go to sleep. Sleep on the edge of her territory and show her your dreams, filled with 10,000 resentful spirits. I don't believe she can resist. As long as she's hooked on your dreams, then don't even think about getting out. Ling Yun was completely dumbfounded. What kind of bad idea is this? Going to sleep at the doorstep of an A-level ghoul's lair? Isn't that a guaranteed death? Thinking of this, Ling Yun couldn't help but swallow. I patted him clearly on the head and said, don't worry, I'll be watching you. As long as she's hooked on your dreams, then don't even think about getting out. This may be just a dinner for me, but for Ling Yun it's a gamble. The bet is Ling Yun's life and the future of China. But Ling Yun looked at that majestic mountain and finally gritted his teeth. For China, I'm going to sleep. 3 days later, Ling Yun arrived at the edge of the sleepwalker's territory. At this time, the surrounding area was a dilapidated amusement park. Only the carousel made creaking noises in the wind. And in the depths of the darkness, countless pairs of green and red eyes were staring at it, thinking these extremely evil monsters would seize the opportunity to pounce on and tear Ling Yun apart. Little did they know that the moment Ling Yun closed his eyes, an even colder, more terrifying aura suddenly enveloped the entire area. That was the territory marker belonging to the A-level ghoul, sleepwalking woman. Those originally eager to move, B-level ghouls were like mice seeing a cat, one by one locking themselves into the shadows, not even daring to breathe loudly. This was the suppression of rank. Ling Yun slowly lay down, relieved, and in less than a minute, a powerful sleepiness, impacted Ling Yun's brain, causing him to fall asleep directly. Not far away, Chui Chang immediately let out a low roar upon seeing this. Hurry, hoping Ling Yun falls asleep, destroying the team members. Gracefully, they directly used a large net woven from the silk of vengeful ghosts, packing Ling Yun up like a rice dumpling. However, just as they lifted the stretcher and rushed out, a team member suddenly exclaimed, "Captain, look at Ling Yun's eyes." It was okay not to look, but this scene made his scalp tingle. He saw Ling Yun's eyelids while he was asleep. Although tightly closed, 2 lines of red tears flowed down the corners of his eyes, and his eyeballs were spinning wildly under his eyelids, as if he was experiencing some kind of extremely terrifying chase. Hurry, full speed ahead. Cui Cheng's heart sank to the bottom. This meant that the sleepwalking woman had entered. Ling Yun's consciousness had become the enemy in the dream. If, before being sent to Kunlun Mountain, he was killed in the dream, then he would also be brain dead in reality. On the other side, inside the dream world, the sky was red. Ling Yun was running wildly, and behind him, a white-haired woman with a shriveled, zombie-like body was dragging a huge black scythe, emitting a strange, shrill laugh. Run, little mouse, keep running. In the sleepwalking woman's world, she is the absolute master. With a puff, Ling Yun didn't even see her movements clearly, and deep wounds were slashed across his arms. A sharp pain struck, but he gritted his teeth and didn't say a word, continuing to rush forward. Unexpectedly, the sleepwalking woman didn't seem to be in a hurry to kill him. She enjoyed this cat-and-mouse feeling. She wanted to shatter this human's hope bit by bit, listening to him utter desperate wails. Puff! Another spiritual attack. With one blow, Ling Yun fell heavily to the ground, unable to run anymore. The sleepwalking woman teleported in front of him, looking down at this toy condescendingly. Can't run anymore? Beg for mercy. Maybe I'll let you die a little easier. However, the next second, something unexpected happened. Ling Yun, who was paw on the ground, slowly raised his head. There was no fear or despair on his face, but rather a mocking smile. Sleepwalking woman, do you dare to make a bet with me? The sleepwalking woman was slightly stunned. Was this human crazy, still wanting to bet when death was imminent? Her pair of blood-red eyes narrowed. Bet on what? Ling Yun looked directly at her terrifying face. Bet on 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, you will die without a burial place. The sleepwalking woman seemed to have heard the biggest joke and let out a piercing, treacherous laugh. Kill me? Here I am a god. Who can kill me? Is that so? Since you are a god, since you are so confident, then do you dare to verify my words? Verify what? Ling Yun took a deep breath and said a sentence that made the A-level ghoul's brain freeze. I think before you became a ghoul, you must have been an unparalleled beauty. As soon as these words came out, the sleepwalking woman's laughter stopped abruptly. Her withered fingers trembled slightly, and a trace of confusion flashed in her murderous eyes. Beautiful? How many years had it been since someone used that word to describe her? Ever since that unfaithful man betrayed her, ever since she was starved to death, ever since she became this inhuman, neither human nor ghost, appearance, she became angry with shame and immediately raised her hand high. You're lying. I never lie. If you don't believe me, then do you dare to kiss me? At this moment, even the air seemed to freeze. This terrifying ghost who had slaughtered countless people was actually stumped by this human teenager's confession. What is this thing? She took a step back in fright, like a shy little girl. Are you really not afraid of me? However, Ling Yun even took the initiative to move his face closer. What is there to be afraid of? Dying under a peony flower. Even as a ghost, it's romantic. Little did they know that behind this seemingly affectionate gesture was Ling Yun's crazy gamble of delaying time with his life. He was betting that this ghoul, who possessed human memories, still retained a trace of yearning for beauty. As long as he stalled for this minute, the tentacles of the Celestial Lord should be able to reach in here. Right at this moment, back in the real world, the helicopter pilot roared, "We're here! We're here!" Finally entering the Kunlun Mountains airspace. Immediately following, an indescribable terror and pressure instantly distorted the entire aircraft. Everyone's vision began to warp. A hurried voice came from my ear. Li Zhangguo shouted into the communicator, "Mental contamination! Throw him down quickly!" Cui Cheng didn't hesitate and pushed Ling Yun, along with his cargo, out of the helicopter. Ling Yun's body plummeted through the air. Just as he was about to smash into the ground, from the darkness below, countless dark, molten ink-like tentacles shot up into the sky. They formed a gentle net, steadily catching Ling Yun. Then they swiftly pierced into his brow. In the dream world, just as she was about to approach Ling Yun, the nightmare woman, who was preparing to verify something, suddenly felt a tremor from the depths of her soul. She realized it. This human was stalling for time. Wrong. You're deceiving me, she shrieked, the scythe in her hand carrying endless resentment and venom. She slashed fiercely at Ling Yun's neck. However, when she reacted, it was already too late. With a deafening boom, the entire red dream sky suddenly shattered like a mirror, replaced by an endless, boundless dim darkness. And at the end of that darkness, countless eyes, larger than mountains, slowly opened. They coldly watched this tiny A-level ghoul, as if looking at an insignificant bug. A grand voice exploded in the dream world. The nightmare woman looked at the black tentacles that swarmed towards her and let out a desperate wail. Who are you? How could you possibly get in here? This is my dream. Ling Yun watched this scene. Finally, he breathed a sigh of relief, revealing a victor's smile. This is your dream? This is merely dessert on the celestial lord's table, with countless tentacles instantly entangling and crushing the nightmare woman. Even the 1,000-foot dream mountain she summoned for defense was slapped into dust. Without any suspense, this was absolute crushing. The nightmare woman transformed into a pure mass of red energy, and was swallowed in one gulp by the giant mouth in the darkness. Consumption successful. A level ghoul, nightmare woman. Gained essence value 30%. Acquired rule ability, Dream Master. Can invade and create, manipulate dreams. Side effect, triggers a global paranormal surge. Cooldown time, 72 hours. As that mass of scarlet energy completely dissipated into my stomach, an indescribable sense of satisfaction arose. The flavor of this dessert is indeed quite good, a bit like aged red wine, with a slightly bitter aftertaste. I slowly opened my eyes, looking at the white-haired boy who was waking up from his dream, gasping for breath. A tentacle gently patted his shoulder, as if rewarding an obedient hunting dog. Well done. Ling Yun trembled and immediately knelt down. It is my honor to serve the celestial lord. I thought this feeding would only be a simple snack. Little did I know that this was just the beginning. As the A-level ghoul's energy was completely digested, an invisible wave suddenly spread from the Kunlun mountains towards the entire blue star. Above the capitals of 120 countries around the globe, the sky suddenly cracked open with dark fissures. Those were gates to the abyss. The scene stunned everyone. All the national leaders who were monitoring the ghoul fluctuations, watching the red dots on the screen that exploded instantly, jumped up from their chairs in shock. What's going on? Why are there so many abyss gates suddenly? Could it be that another S-level ghoul has descended? As the A-level ghoul's energy was completely digested, an invisible wave centered on the Kunlun mountains, detonating the global paranormal monitoring network. They all pointed their fingers at us, attempting to use this opportunity to pressure us and demand the secret that triggered the energy surge. However, facing their aggressive accusations, the Paranormal Bureau did not engage in any verbal disputes, but directly released a classified video. In the footage, the A-level Nightmare Queen, feared by the Western world, in front of that towering millstone, turned into red energy and merged with the millstone like an ant. Even the S-level top-tier ability users who infiltrated didn't even have time to scream before turning into poetry. As the video ended, they all fell into a deathly silence. All the doubts and clamoring instantly vanished in the face of absolute power. They finally understood that what we possessed was not a disaster, but a living god, and in order to appease the wrath of this god, and also to seek a glimmer of protection in this apocalyptic world, they had no choice but to put aside their arrogance and reveal. Just 3 days later, a heavy gift of apology was shipped to Linhai City. It was a full 500 kilograms of orthodox stone, resources scraped together almost by emptying their coffers. Inside the Kunlun Mountains restricted zone, Ling Yun tightly held the Ghoul Slayer sword that had accompanied him for 3 years. Celestial Lord. Although we have now obtained 550 kilograms of orthodox stone, the casualty rate among ghoul hunters remains high. We humbly request that you grant us greater strength. His voice trembled slightly, but his eyes were unusually firm. This was a gamble, betting on whether this lofty god was truly willing to protect these insignificant ants. I thought I would get a cold response as usual, but to my surprise, the deity seemed to be in a good mood this time. A loud voice, like a huge bell and wooden drum, exploded in its mind. Leave the knife. Ling Yun suddenly looked up, his eyes full of ecstasy. Thank you, Lord Heaven and Earth. It did not hesitate at all, holding the knife with both hands and placing it respectfully on the ground. Then he left. Immediately afterwards, something unimaginable happened. A dark, ink-like tentacle suddenly emerged from the void, as if it had spirituality. It gently rolled up the ghost-slaying knife, which weighed dozens of pounds. As the tentacle tightened, an indescribable terrifying aura instantly enveloped the entire blade. You must know, this is an A-grade ghost-slaying knife, made from the best S-grade Eerie fragments. Normally, even A-grade Eerie entities would not dare to touch it easily. But in front of this tentacle, it was as if it had met its nemesis. The blade trembled violently, emitting unbearable wails. My consciousness swept over this so-called divine weapon, and I couldn't help but sneer. The treasure in the eyes of humans is just a piece of slightly harder scrap iron in my eyes. The S-grade aura inside is not only weak, but also extremely unstable. There is a risk of explosion at any time. Since I want to help you, I might as well go all the way. as my tentacle suddenly exerted force. A pure and overbearing force of rules poured into it along the hilt. That was the devouring rule from the hungry ghost, the mental rule of the nightmare, and the severing rule of the big sword ghost. 3 completely different forces were forcibly kneaded together under my will, completely changing the essence of this knife, until Ling Yun came to the foot of Kunlun Mountain again. When he saw the ghost-slaying knife floating in mid-air, he was completely dumbfounded. The appearance looked the same, and even the scratches on the scabbard were still there. Ling Yun was a little disappointed. Could it be that Lord Heaven and Earth just took it to play with for a night? However, the moment his hand grasped the hilt, an aura like that from the ancient times, almost suffocating, instantly rushed into his brain along his arm. Ling Yun's eyes rolled back, and he almost fainted. It was not the infusion of power. It was the connection of souls. Ling Yun let out a scream, wanting to throw away the knife. But no matter how hard he tried, the knife was like it was growing on his hand, not moving at all. The loud voice rang out again. "Don't move. It's recognizing its master." A few seconds later, the tentacle disappeared, replaced by a kind of unprecedented intimacy, as if this knife was no longer a cold weapon, but a part of his body. Immediately afterwards, a miraculous scene that stunned Ling Yun appeared. The originally lifeless ghost-slaying knife suddenly opened a big red eye on the blade. "What are you spacing out for? Let's go." It actually spoke. "Lord Heaven and Earth, what's going on?" The knife directly rolled its eyes. It said disdainfully, "Lord God is too lazy to pay attention to you. Let's go, let's go. Don't embarrass yourself here. We're going to kill everything." Ling Yun was stunned for a moment, then ecstatic. The god, this knife actually has intelligence, and it also recognizes heaven and earth as its master. What does this mean? It means that Ling Yun will be a confidant of Lord Heaven and Earth from now on. After completely leaving the Kunlun Mountain restricted area, Ling Yun examined his ghost-slaying knife. A few colleagues came over, smiling and greeting. "Ling Yun, what are you doing? Why are you staring at your ghost-slaying knife? What did you go in to do just now? Did Lord Heaven and Earth ask you to find another ghost to eat?" Ling Yun then put the ghost-slaying knife into its scabbard and said calmly, "I have urgent matters to report to the Bureau. I'll leave it to you guys here." Half an hour later, inside the Linghai City Ghost Subduing Bureau's command room, Li Zhonghua, Zhao Jianghai, Lu Longbo, and a group of other ghost controllers stared blankly at the ghost-slaying knife that had grown a mouth and eyes, flying around here. A mischievous ghost-slaying knife instantly shredded it, revealing the spring scenery. A female ghost controller next to him quickly grabbed a blanket from the seat, preventing her colleague from being exposed. Li Zhonghua and others stared blankly at the ghost-slaying knife with a childlike personality, their faces full of shock. After regaining his senses, he immediately ordered in a trembling voice, "Ling Yun, quickly catch it." Not out of fear but out of surprise. A ghost-slaying knife that has been transformed by heaven and earth has not only been given life and will, but has also been given the power of rules. It's necessary to study this carefully. Ling Yun sighed, "Lai, stop being naughty." Facing its master's command, this ghost-slaying sword is still quite obedient. It immediately flew back obediently, but it looked at Ling Yun pitifully. "Master, I don't want to be sent to the lab. I don't want to be dissected." Without waiting for Ling Yun to speak, Li Zhonghua, who was beside him, immediately said, "Little guy, don't worry. We're just studying what changes have occurred in you, not dissecting you." What a joke. This is a ghost-slaying sword that has been transformed by the heavens and the earth. How could they possibly dissect it? The main reason is that even if they dissected it, they couldn't put it back together. This ghost-slaying sword is already a living being. Dissecting it is equivalent to killing it. The Bureau doesn't have the divine power to revive a living being after killing it so easily. Of course, at this moment, Li Zhonggua's heart was filled with joy. He never expected that the heavens and earth, who should have been aloof like a god and without emotion, would actually respond to Ling Yun's request for help. What does this mean? It means that the great being of heavens and earth is indeed on the side of China. It also means that the great being of heavens and earth has acknowledged the cooperation with China. This, for China, is a joyous occasion worthy of celebration throughout the land. When the ghost-slaying sword heard Li Zhonghua say that they wouldn't dissect it, it finally breathed a sigh of relief. So Ling Yun took this ghost-slaying sword into the paranormal research laboratory. An old man in a white coat, with a full head of gray hair, was already rushing to greet them. This old professor, named Zhou Rong, who has dedicated his life to global paranormal research, had already heard about the matter and couldn't wait to study this mutated ghost-slaying sword. When this mutated ghost-slaying sword was placed on the testing platform, after being scanned by machine after machine, no source of mental pollution was detected, No paranormal aura was detected. There was no damage to the blade. Start conducting rules testing. Report. Very clear power of rules has been detected from the ghost-slaying sword, and it's deploying 1. When the testing personnel gave the report, Professor Zhou Rong and Li Zhanghua were shocked. What? The ghost-slaying sword is imbued with the power of rules? You should know that the ghost-slaying sword has never been able to inscribe the power of rules. The reason is that the ghost-slaying sword, made from S-level ghoul fragments, is too repulsive to low-level ghouls and cannot allow ghouls to be contained within it. Now, the ghost-slaying sword that has been transformed by the heavens and earth actually contains the power of rules. What kind of rules ability is it? Zhou Rong asked quickly. A total of 3 rule talents have been detected, namely, B-level rule talent, Indestructible. Can greatly enhance its own physical strength at least 10 times the value. B-level rule talent. Severance can give the ghost-slaying sword the ability to cut through anything. A level rule talent, Fear Sonic Wave, emits sonic wave roars. When the staff member's voice faded, wow, everyone at the scene was plunged into deep shock. A ghost-slaying sword has been given 3 rule talents. This is almost equivalent to 3 ghouls being parasitic on the ghost-slaying sword. What shocked them even more was that using treasures to contain ghouls comes at a price, such as satisfying a condition of the ghoul, or losing something of oneself, such as memories, or body parts, etc. But using this ghost-slaying sword does not require paying a price. There are no side effects. This is Chapter 35. Unparalleled Strength, Monstrous Disaster. Have you guys looked enough? Being watched by so many people are also very shy. At this moment, in the laboratory, while everyone was immersed in shock and joy, that ghost-slaying sword started to shout again in a childish and cute voice and kept jumping on the observation platform. A ghost-slaying sword that has instantly parasitized 3 rule powers, has no side effects and is also a living being. Li Zhanghua trembled all over, staring intently at this ghost-slaying sword, the expression on his face becoming ecstatic, his breathing becoming heavy. You old pervert, don't come near me. The ghost-slaying sword's scarlet demonic eye, seeing Li Zhanghua like this, immediately flew away with a look of disgust, and then returned to Ling Yun's waist. Ling Yun gripped the hilt of the ghost-slaying sword, a feeling of telepathy with the other party surged into his mind. That feeling was as if he and the ghost-slaying sword had merged into one. With a thought, schwa, the ghost-slaying sword actually unsheathed itself directly towards the black sponge inside the laboratory, the one that is usually used to test the hardness of the ghost-slaying sword. Swinging it over, this white bone ghost is the one with the highest physical strength among all the ghosts Ling Yun has encountered. However, to the shock of everyone in the lab, as a flash of the ghost-slaying blade went by, with a crack, that huge black skeleton was directly cut in half. Clang, the ghost-slaying blade returned to its sheath. Even Ling Yun himself was looking in shock at the black skeleton that had been cut in half at this moment. The entire conference room was silent enough to hear a pin drop, everyone staring intently at the black skeleton that had been cut in 2. You must know, this black skeleton is currently the most recognized hardest material in the world. It was left behind by an A-level ghoul, and before this, no weapon existed that could destroy this black skeleton. Yet, now a ghost-slaying blade has appeared, easily cutting the black skeleton in half. Exaggerated, it's no exaggeration to call it a peerless weapon. What does this mean? It means that Ling Yun, the owner of this blade, can not only use 3 powers of rules, and when facing those ghosts with extremely hard shells, he can easily cause great damage to them. Admittedly, ghosts cannot be killed, but they can be sealed, contained, or put into dormancy. Once the damage suffered exceeds the limit that the ghost can withstand, that ghost will dissipate on the spot. Entering a dormant period, after a while it will revive again. In fact, the Paranormal Bureau deals with those C-level and D-level ghosts by using high-intensity offensive methods. Putting them into a dormant period, otherwise containing them one by one, would be too wasteful of containment items. Li Zhanghua had already snapped back to his senses and roared after taking a deep breath. Immediately, report the file of this ghost-slaying blade to headquarters. The security level is designated as SSS level, and no one can mention it to the outside world. What happened today, and also Ling Yun. You can start preparing the menu for the Heavenly Grandmaster next time. Didn't you realize? The 3 powers of rules bestowed upon this ghost-slaying blade are all ghosts that the Heavenly Grandmaster has devoured. In other words, the more ghosts the Heavenly Grandmaster devours, the more rewards he will give us in the future. The stronger it will be. As soon as these words fell, the people in the entire laboratory all gasped. All right, I'll go prepare immediately. The ghost riders of the Paranormal Bureau seem so powerless when dealing with numerous ghosts. Because using the treasures that contain ghosts comes at all sorts of costs. The deeper the usage, the more painful the price to pay. Li Zhanggui used an eraser once before. The price was losing a piece of extremely precious memory. His memories of his deceased wife are completely gone, even if the people from the Paranormal Bureau show him the information about his deceased wife, he would feel a headache just by looking at it. As if he could never accommodate that precious memory, which makes Li Zhanggui's children are now very unfamiliar with this father. However, Li Zhanggui knows that, as the director of the Linhai City Paranormal Bureau, as long as it is to protect the people of Linhai City, then, even if it costs his own life, it is acceptable. He believes that the Heavenly Grandmaster will definitely grant more rewards in the future. To us, in this way, the ghost riders of the Paranormal Bureau will be able to sacrifice much less. Li Zhanggui said with a face full of joy. Ling Yun looked at this director who treats him as his own child and has secretly decided in his heart that one day he will definitely find a way to help the director retrieve that precious memory. In Li Zhanggui, Ling Yun and others were rejoicing for obtaining the Heavenly Grandmaster's precious rewards. The Free Federation, tens of thousands of miles away, was in a state of desperation. On the one hand, they had just lost 550 kilograms of precious ore, causing the President Trump and General Mike and other high-ranking officials to be under potential pressure from other congressmen. On the other hand, a city called Dekla, California, suddenly broke out a bizarre disaster with an extremely high danger level. At this moment it was late at night, everyone's cell phones and landlines suddenly rang, and the people who were in a deep sleep answered the phone with great impatience. Then, the exact same hoarse words came from the phone: "You are gonna die." Some people were furious, some were puzzled, and some were horrified. A lunatic! Most people chose to hang up, but the moment they did, splatter, their heads exploded on the spot, blood gushing out. It shot straight to the ceiling, staining the entire room blood red. The husband, wife, or child sleeping soundly nearby heard the commotion, opened their eyes, and saw the scene of their family member's head exploding and blood spurting like a fountain. Immediately, they screamed in terror. At that moment, almost every family in Declaga, California, issued a piercing scream. This meant that most of the people in the city had been killed by that possessed strange phone call. Of course, there were also some lucky ones. They didn't choose to answer the phone, no matter how many times it rang. They hung up directly, and eventually even turned off their phones. Tonight, they became the lucky survivors. However, every one of their phones was forcibly turned back on, and a countdown of blood-red numbers appeared on the screen. 72:59. 3 days. It was like a countdown to death. Chapter 36. The Free Federation's Request. Anson Myers, the governor of Declaga, California, was lucky. Why? Because last night he had an assassination attempt. Those mysterious men in black combat suits precisely assassinated all of Anson Myers' bodyguards. Just as they were about to pull the trigger on Anson Myers, the satellite phones of these mysterious men rang simultaneously. The landline and cell phone in Anson Myers' office also started ringing, but he certainly didn't dare to move. He raised his hands, fearing being killed by these assassins. These mysterious men, seeing their satellite phones ringing, subconsciously thought it was their boss, with urgent news to tell them. Only their boss could get through on this phone. So, the mysterious men answered simultaneously, and all heard a hoarse voice that didn't belong to their boss at all. "You're going to die." The mysterious men were filled with black question marks. But the next second, splatter, Anson Myers was incredibly shocked to see the heads of the mysterious men explode as if small bombs had been implanted inside them. The entire office was splattered with minced meat and brain matter, scaring Anson Myers into a scream. He swore it was the most disgusting scene he had ever seen in his life. The two phones in the office were still ringing incessantly. Anson Myers immediately crawled over to the phone, about to pick it up. However, suddenly he seemed to see a sinister, ghostly, and ferocious face flash across his phone screen. Scared, he immediately threw the phone away. Ring, ring, ring. The two phone ringtones continued to sound, but Anson Myers didn't dare to answer at all. He suddenly understood why the mysterious men who had tried to assassinate him had bizarrely died clutching their heads. It was definitely the work of this phone call. Phone. Anson Myers suddenly remembered the confidential information he had seen before as a core member of the FCA. It was a detailed file about the revival of the strange and supernatural in this world, and he had seen an A-level ghoul called Phone Ghoul in that file. Ghoul, Phone Ghoul, Threat Level, A, Rule Ability. Death Call. The Phone Ghoul will call your phone. Once you answer, its death sentence for you will take effect immediately. If you don't answer, you can live for a maximum of 3 days. Disposal method. Successfully put it into hibernation. The more powerful the ghoul, the longer the hibernation period. The weaker the ghoul, the shorter the hibernation period. According to the speculation of ghoul research experts, the reason ghouls enter hibernation is that their own energy has been exhausted and they need to recondense enough energy. To allow itself to recover and to gather energy, it needs to absorb the energy that spills out from the abyss gates. Furthermore, the more abyss gates your country has, the faster the ghouls and entities in that country will revive. Normally, after an A-level ghoul enters hibernation, it takes at least 10 years for it to revive, but only 5 years have passed. Why? Anson Myers felt incredibly horrified. It was truly a case of misfortune never coming alone, especially for this state of Texas. He wanted to work hard to improve the economy and his reputation, but unfortunately, he was in opposition to other parties in the state, because he would obstruct their interests, which is why someone came to assassinate him tonight. It must be someone sent by the bosses behind the other parties. And now, the telephone ghoul has revived in his state. Damn it, why so unlucky? Anson Myers almost wanted to jump out of the window. I understand now, it must be because recently there are so many more abyss gates in the world, causing many entities to revive prematurely. Anson Myers said in a deep voice. Damn it, after Anson Myers cursed, he didn't dare to answer the phone, but waited quietly. Sure enough, a death countdown appeared on his phone screen. He couldn't care less about anything else. The appearance of the death countdown confirmed that the telephone ghoul wouldn't target him again. Entities must follow their own rules when they want to kill. They can't just kill whoever they want. So Anson Myers immediately dialed Trump's phone number and told him everything that had happened here. Upon hearing this, Trump's already bad mood worsened. After scolding Anson Myers harshly on the phone, he finally calmed down and thought about countermeasures. Frankly, the A-level entity, the telephone ghoul, is a very tricky entity with a rule-based existence, but it's hard to find. Mr. Trump, the number of abyss gates has increased, and although the main reason is in our Free Federation, China also bears some responsibility. Moreover, just now, didn't we reach a deal with China? We are now in trouble. We can ask China for help. China must provide us with assistance, or we will condemn them, Anson Myers said in a deep voice. Trump heard this, and was somewhat tempted. Doing so was indeed possible, and he could also observe the methods of the China Pure Justice Bureau. But would China be willing to agree? That's an A-level entity. Dealing with it would inevitably sacrifice many ghoul hunters. But there was no other way at the moment. So, Trump immediately dialed a satellite phone, requesting to speak with Luo Zheng, the leader of the China Pure Justice Bureau. He didn't waste words, nor did he engage in his usual eloquent talk. Trump directly stated his needs. Trump was originally thinking that if the other party refused, he would immediately make the matter here public, saying that it was because of China that the number of abyss gates had increased, and the entities had revived prematurely, but they were being irresponsible and chose to stand idly by. However, to Trump's surprise, Luo Zheng, the leader of China, only said one sentence, "Please allow me to discuss it." 10 minutes later, Luo Zheng nodded and agreed. Agreed? Trump was stunned. They agreed just like that, without conditions. All right, we can help you deal with the telephone ghoul, but there's a condition, Luo Zheng added. Trump thought, that's more like it, there must be a condition. Please speak, Trump said. We plan to capture this entity alive and transport it to our mainland China, Luo Zheng said. Trump suddenly realized, good heavens, they plan to use the telephone ghoul to feed the terrifying entity in Kunlun Mountain at that location. Trump's originally happy mood became conflicted again. If he agreed, China would be happy, but if he didn't, the state of Texas would be in trouble. In the end, Trump thought for a long time and nodded. Okay, Mr. Trump, I wish us a pleasant cooperation. Luo Zhengwei smiled. Chapter 37. The Justice League 5th Squad's Attempt. General MacArthur. Please let us rush to Texala, California. At this moment, the Justice League 5th Squad of the Free Federation submitted an application, and General MacArthur, sitting in his office, didn't even think about it, immediately shaking his head in refusal, saying, Our Trump has already reached an agreement with China. This strange incident in Texala. General MacArthur paused for a moment, before slowly saying, the Chinese side requires the phone ghoul to be recovered and transported to China. That won't do. Pagini immediately shook his head, saying, you need to know that on the Chinese side, there is a terrifying entity that can devour and destroy ghouls. They want this phone ghoul to feed it to that terrifying being, which is equivalent to handing over resources. Moreover, an A-level ghoul, if successfully suppressed and sealed, can also produce a lot of positive ghoul stones. Now, our Free Federation has already lost, in exchange for intelligence. Of course I understand the logic of what you're saying, but the problem is you also know how tricky the phone ghoul is, and Texala is also a rather special place. The best solution is to let China handle it. General MacArthur. Are you saying that we can't handle the phone ghoul smoothly? Pagini asked. Otherwise, your 5th squad strength is indeed top-notch. But this ghoul is really difficult to deal with, General MacArthur said. That's not necessarily true. Just the other day, members 3 and 4 of our 5th squad successfully mastered an A-level ghoul each. Pagini said confidently, General MacArthur, are you sure you really don't want us to try? Do you really want to hand over this A-level ghoul to China? Hearing this, MacArthur fell into a long silence. For many small and medium-sized countries without such strong capabilities, the more powerful the ghoul, the more of a disaster it is for them. But for superpowers like the Free Federation and China, ghouls are disasters but also valuable resources because the production of positive ghoul stones originates from fragments scraped from high-level ghouls. The higher the level of the ghoul, the better the quality of the positive ghoul stones made from the scraped fragments, and the stronger their ability to suppress ghouls. That's why General MacArthur was also somewhat unwilling to agree with Trump's idea of asking China for help. Please give us a chance to prove ourselves, General MacArthur. Pagini said confidently, and General MacArthur fell into deep thought for a long time. The 5th squad does have the strength and has successfully handled many A-level ghoul incidents. Perhaps they could really let them try? With this in mind, General MacArthur immediately dialed Trump's office, quickly explaining his suggestion. And the pros and cons. Trump had just finished negotiating with the Chinese side, and was actually feeling a bit regretful. After all, ghouls are indeed valuable resources for superpowers. Is the 5th squad that confident? Trump asked in a deep voice. Mr. Trump, they said they are at least 90% sure, General MacArthur said. Trump took a deep breath, narrowed his eyes, and fell into thought. Honestly, he was reluctant to let the 5th squad take the risk. The reason was simple. If they couldn't win, they would probably be completely wiped out. Losing a squad of all A-level ghoul masters would be very painful even for the Free Federation. But in his heart, Trump. Also, I really don't want to let China get the benefits again after much thought. Then let's try it. If you find you can't win, you must retreat in time. Do not cause casualties. Trump finally decided to take a gamble. If we can solve this telephone ghoul, by then we won't need the Chinese Jade Ghoul squad to come over. At the same time, he also told the squad not to be greedy. If they discover something is wrong, they must escape immediately. Yes, I will relay Mr. Trump's orders to them immediately. General MacArthur hung up the phone and immediately contacted the Justice League's 5th squad leader, Pagini. Pagini and his team members, upon learning they were allowed to depart, immediately packed the necessary equipment. They boarded a special helicopter and flew to Texarkana, Arkansas at the fastest speed. When the 5th squad's helicopter landed on top of a tall building in Texarkana, Arkansas, everyone looked up at the sky. Under the influence of the A-level ghoul, telephone ghoul's ghost domain, the originally sunny morning was now filled with dark clouds, and it started to rain ash. The ash rain began to erode human civilization at a slow pace, building by building. They hurriedly covered the equipment with special items that prevent ash rain corrosion, but the cars on the street and public facilities showed signs of decay. Human hot weapons will also lose their effectiveness once they are contaminated with this ash rain. The more advanced and powerful the ghost clothing, the wider the range of the ash rain and the greater the intensity of the civilization's erosion. Under these circumstances, the people of the entire city of Texarkana remained indoors. The ash rain also has a great impact on ordinary people. Once they are drenched by the ash rain, they will suffer from serious illnesses, frequent nightmares, and mental pollution at best, and go crazy on the spot, triggering various adorable diseases at worst. What a quiet city. The 5th squad's second member, Ms. Red Rose, wearing clothes that can protect from erosion, stood on the tall building, overlooking the entire city, and found that the entire city had fallen into a strange, eerie, and panic-stricken state. This surprised Red Rose. Don't be careless. This is the telephone ghoul, a powerful ghost who once almost destroyed an entire state capital. The third member, a man codenamed Joker, spoke cautiously. Pagini, the team leader, was a bald, middle-aged man, strong and burly, nearly 2 meters tall. He exuded a powerful aura that even low-level ghouls feared. He turned to look at the fourth member, Demon Eye. Can you observe the core of the telephone ghoul's rules? If you want to deal with ghosts, you must first find the core of the ghost's rules. The telephone ghoul is a ghost with rule entities, but it is extremely good at hiding. Now, the people of the entire Texarkana must have already started the countdown to death. Next, it depends on how this squad rescues the people from the crisis. Chapter 38, The Time Ghoul and the Telephone Ghoul. Reporting, Captain, I found it incredibly easily. Demon Eye is a thin black man. He did not disappoint Captain Pa Jini's expectations. He only activated the Demon Eye Ghoul for less than half a minute and directly discovered the telephone ghoul's hiding place. According to the intelligence, the telephone ghoul's personality is timid. Pa Jini gave the order, because the telephone ghoul's killing rule can only rely on the phone. Ding ling ling. When the Demon Eye discovered the other party's existence, the satellite phones around their waists rang almost simultaneously. There is no doubt that this is the telephone ghoul calling them. The telephone ghoul has also discovered that the Justice League's fifth squad has invaded his ghost domain. In response, the entire fifth squad quickly hung up the phone and then turned it off. But the next second, ding ling ling, all the phones and cell phones in the entire Texarkana rang out. But this is not much of an interference for the fifth squad. Even if they have entered a 3-day countdown to death, they only need to contain and suppress the telephone ghoul within 3 days. At the very least, they must knock him into hibernation. Let's go. Let's directly arrest him. This is the telephone ghoul's real core of rules. Prepare enough ghost-repelling stones, Captain Pagini said, as they hung above this 100-meter-high building. He leaped down like Superman in a city filled with skyscrapers, constantly using a special grappling device, heading towards the direction of the phone ghost's core rules. 4 team members followed closely behind very quickly, very quickly. Very quickly, 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 very quickly, it was quietly placed in the center of the room. This black, ancient telephone exuded a strong black mist and an intense, eerie energy field. It permeated the surroundings, confirming with 100% certainty that this was the phone ghost's true core rules. Just as Pagini and the others were planning to take out their treasures and attack the black telephone, humans who had already died actually walked into the room. They no longer had eyes, only the whites of their eyes, and their skin was all purple. Like zombies, they all had a black one on their heads, and connected to the black telephone's phone line. At this moment, Captain Pagini turned to look at the door, only to discover that outside the door, a dense crowd of ghost slaves was constantly Ongjin Chaljurli. Damn it! Pagini couldn't help but curse when he saw this scene. The other side actually adopted a human wave tactic, although these ghost slaves were all very fragile. But they couldn't withstand the sheer number. If they rushed in headlong, Pagini and the others wouldn't retreat. They would be submerged sooner or later. Let me! Team member 5, Dai Hao, a young assassin, stepped forward. He took off his pair of black, specially made glasses. Wow! A red scarlet ray with terrifying destructive power pierced towards the phone ghost. Assassins are special. They don't control ghosts, but because of an accident. When an A-level ghost was about to be sealed, it suddenly drilled into his body. Originally, that A-level ghost wanted to control his body, but his soul strength was incredibly tenacious. Not only did he suppress the ghost, but he also gained the ghost's ability, Ghost Annihilation Ray. The extremely powerful Ghost Annihilation Ray pierced through the bodies of the ghost slaves and landed on the black telephone. Boom! The entire top floor of the high-rise completely exploded, and all the members of the 5th team flew out and landed on the surrounding high-rise buildings. The physical strength of Ghost Riders is now no different from that of superhumans. Being able to swing between buildings like Spider-Man in the city, this for ordinary people. The extremely deadly shockwave and high-altitude fall had no effect on them at all. How is it? Was the core rules destroyed? Pagini stared intently at the exploded floor. Anxiously waiting, Magic I immediately activated his insight ability and began to observe. But no matter how he scanned, he couldn't find any trace of the phone ghost's core rules in this building. Report, Captain, I don't see the phone ghost's core rules, Magic I reported. Could it be destroyed? Pagini was overjoyed when he heard this, and the other team members also curled their lips. It seems that this phone ghost is just like that. As long as the core rules are found, it is still very easy to deal with. But at this moment, ding-a-ling, the phone of the entire 5th team rang again. Hasn't it been destroyed yet? The expressions of the crowd froze on their faces. The crowd suddenly looked back and found a woman wearing a black dress. A beautiful woman with pale skin, with her eyes closed, appeared behind them. And the woman was holding the black, ancient telephone that was making the sound. It was the woman in the black dress whose mouth was moving. Damn it, run! In Declaga State, there is not only the phone ghost but also the time ghost. At this moment, the originally confident fifth team, all members, their faces were filled with despair and fear. The phone ghost. Danger level, A time ghost. Danger level, 2 A-level ghosts have revived in Declaga State at the same time. Damn it, damn it, damn it, how could it be like this? The 5 Jade Ghost wielders at this moment only wanted to run. If there was only one, they could still deal with it. But if there were 2 and they were working together, then the only option was to run. That wasn't something they could handle. But just at that moment, the black-skirted beauty, who had been keeping her eyes closed, suddenly opened her mouth. Her mouth had no teeth, no tongue, like a bottomless, dark abyss. Yet, a voice of unparalleled elegance emanated from it. All under heaven. Painted sounds are lost, as if the law followed the sound. With a crack, within a domain of 1,000 meters, the scene froze, losing its color, becoming a black and white world as if time had stopped. Paganini, Demon Eye, and the others all maintained their mid-air poses of frantic escape. Their expressions were still full of fear and despair. Then, from the black telephone held by the black-skirted woman, a telephone line extended, piercing into the heads of these 5 team members. At this moment, the power of the time-stopping rule dissipated. The 5 members of the Justice League team reopened their eyes. They had no pupils, only bloodshot whites. Chapter 39. The arrival of the new menu. What, are you saying? That the entire 5th team of the Justice League has been controlled by the telephone ghost and become ghost slaves? General Mike Multicolor, who was sitting firmly in the FCA headquarters command room, received an emergency battle report from the intelligence department, and his face immediately darkened. He rose from his seat in disbelief. Not just him, but even the staff in the entire command room were shocked. No way, how could this happen? You have to know that the entire 5th team of the Justice League were all A-level Jade Ghost wielders. Each of them was battle-hardened, with extremely rich combat experience. Even when facing an A-level ghost, the telephone ghost, even if they couldn't win, they should at least be able to retreat safely. How could they be completely wiped out? Report, General, according to Captain Paganini. The recording and video conveyed to the intelligence department before his death. It was because of inaccurate intelligence from Decra, Georgia, that led to their annihilation. Because Decra, Georgia, actually has 2 A-level ghosts revived. The other A-level ghost is also an extremely troublesome existence, named the Time Ghost. The Time Ghost and the Telephone Ghost have joined forces. At this moment, the intelligence department is also deciphering the blurred recordings and videos, and hurriedly reported this information to General Mike Multicolor. General Mike Multicolor, upon hearing this, collapsed into his chair. It's over. Decra, Georgia is finished. 2 A-level ghosts joining forces. No wonder the 5th team would be completely wiped out so quickly with their strength. How could this be? Those 2 A-level ghosts actually chose to join forces. If that's the case, the danger level of this incident is already close to an S-level ghost. Without even time to mourn for the deceased 5th team, General Mike Multicolor immediately dialed Trump's phone. Needless to say, I already know. Trump's deep voice came from the other end of the line. What should we do? Should we directly erase Decra, Georgia? General Mike Multicolor asked with a solemn expression. In reality, the Free Federation in this era of ghost revival has twice disregarded the safety of civilians and directly erased cities. The ace in the hole for drawing a line under national affairs is the eraser. The Free Federation naturally also has their own trump cards. In the Free Federation, 2 cities have each experienced an A-level ghost, the Plague Ghost, and an A-level ghost, the Bomb Ghost. The former has unparalleled, deadly plague-spreading ability, while the latter has a devastating explosive destruction ability. At that time, the Free Federation had just suppressed an S-level ghost and had no extra power to suppress and contain these 2 A-level ghosts, so they chose to use the trump card, God's Wrath, to directly erase those 2 cities. Now, are they going to use God's Wrath again? Don't rush. Shizu Trump calmed down at this moment. Although the loss of a Daewoo squad saddened him, the incident had already occurred. Continuing to dwell on it is useless, he said steadily. Isn't there still the destroyer squad sent by the China Easily Bureau? General MacArthur fell silent. 2 A-level paranormal entities wiped out even the Justice League's Daewoo squad. Even if the destroyer squad from China's Easily Bureau comes, what good will it do? Isn't it still sending them to their deaths? Wait a minute. General MacArthur understood Shizu Trump's meaning. Things have reached this point. Place the last hope on China's Easily Bureau. If China's Easily Bureau can handle the two A-level paranormal entities, that would naturally be the best. If they can't handle it, and they sacrifice themselves here, then he can just use the ultimate trump card, the Wrath of God, to wipe out the state of Delaware and put the two paranormal entities back into a dormant state. This way, China's Easily Bureau will also lose a destroyer squad with top-notch combat capabilities. Looking at it this way, it really fits the style of the Free Federation. If they suffer a loss, other countries have to suffer along with them. It's absolutely impossible for only the Free Federation to suffer. Mr. Trump, when will China's Easily Bureau's destroyer squad arrive in Delaware? When will the destroyer squad arrive in Decra, California? Do we need to tell them the truth about the situation here? General MacArthur asked. They'll probably arrive in about 6 hours. Besides, if you tell them the situation here, do you think they'll still dare to come and deal with the paranormal entities here? Trump asked indifferently. General MacArthur nodded in realization. That's right, two A-level paranormal entities have revived and joined forces to control a city. In this situation, unless China's national pillar personally appears or the Free Federation's Avengers First Squad is dispatched, it's impossible to suppress them. But the problem is, China's national pillar can't leave the Easily Bureau headquarters. He has to suppress the S-level paranormal entity Xiong Pai Gue, and the Avengers First Squad can't leave Washington City either. They have to be responsible for suppressing the S-level paranormal entity Ji Jin Gue. Ling Yun came here again, his face full of respect, and said softly, Lord of Heaven and Earth, a new menu has been sent. It's an A-level paranormal entity, the telephone ghost. The intelligence information about it is presented here. Please take a look. He gently opened a black box, and then a holographic projection screen appeared, displaying detailed information about the telephone ghost, including the location of its current revival, the distance in kilometers from here, the danger level, rules and abilities, etc. At this moment, a black tentacle stretched out from the Black Mountains and came in front of the holographic projection screen. On the tentacle, a scarlet demonic eye slowly opened, browsing the information on it. Delaware in the Free Federation, huh? After devouring it with a glance, it also fell into contemplation. It's a bit far, tens of thousands of kilometers, but according to the brief introduction of this paranormal entity, it seems to be a very delicious dish. If it were the newly awakened self, it would only be able to watch and not eat due to the distance. But now, after continuously devouring two paranormal entities, the devouring entities' own consciousness has greatly strengthened and possesses more rules and power. It can already try to see if it can imprison the paranormal entity from a long distance. The Nightmare Woman's rules and abilities can allow the devouring entity's consciousness to descend into other people's dreams. Since that's the case, break. Under Ling Yun's surprised gaze, a section of the black tentacle broke off. Immediately afterwards, the broken part transformed into a black insect, quickly crawling onto Ling Yun's body. Ling Yun looked down and saw that the black insect had directly burrowed into his heart. There was no pain, nor any discomfort. Chapter 40. He's drawn his sword. Go, make it quick. That vast and immense, emotionless voice from the strange place entered Ling Yun's ears. Understood. Ling Yun nodded, then turned and left to attack. Begin leading the team, head to Delaware, in the Free Federation. The strange place looked at Ling Yun's back. Its severed tentacle retained a portion of its consciousness, allowing Ling Yun to carry it so that when the time comes, it would be easy for it to directly descend upon Delaware and devour that ghastly entity. Only 6 hours passed, and the population of Delaware was reduced by another third. It wasn't the telephone ghoul that acted. Even if the telephone ghoul wanted to kill someone, it had to follow its own rules and order. Those who didn't answer its call could at least survive for 3 days. It was another A-level ghoul that acted, the time ghoul. The time ghoul's rule-based abilities are very simple. Freeze, accelerate, reverse. That entire 3